Beckham, Brooklyn Beckham.
The bones of our suffering, it's very similar regardless of the wealth.
Wait, what? Okay, so the Beckhams, the family drama that has been posted all over social media, I'm not going to lie, I love it. I'm glad he posted it. Not going to lie, I'm glad he posted it. I'm like, thank you, Brooklyn. Thanks for giving us insight. Also, a little bit tantrumy. You're probably going to regret this in 10 years when you and this girl get a divorce. But you know.
It's got Posh Spices at #1.
What do you
One of her
mean?
songs, Victoria Beckham's songs, has gone to #1
Really?
in the UK. Yeah, because there's a whole backing her. I haven't seen any public acknowledgement of her her first #1 hit single from 20 years ago, whatever it was. But the country is behind her. Some of the country.
Look, obviously, I loved the Spice Girls. That was, the era back then. And
but this is one of her solo ones. This wasn't even the Spice Girls.
Oh, is that a Spice song?
No. Spices had loads of ones. This is one of her solo, which never did.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe this is all PR. Who knows?
The title of the song was "Not Such an Innocent Girl," which was quite interesting, given the statement and her dancing of the non-innocent dancing.
Look, firstly, let's just start with opinion and no facts or scientific backing here. My personal opinion is, I'm not sure. Look, I get that he's probably acting a little immature, but also Posh Spice, Victoria Beckham, presents a very well curated persona to the world. And I can tell that persona really matters to her. And I can't imagine what it's like to be her child and have to fit that persona and not, break rank and present a certain way. And so, and then the world backs those that have persona and fall into line. She doesn't rock the boat. Her husband cheated on her many times. She stayed. Good for her, but she's not a boat rocker. And guess what the English love?
Even he doesn't get vilified for having affairs, whether it's true or it's not true, right? We don't actually know that, whether it is or not, right?
But there was some damning evidence. Look, we're going back to the 2000s. I'll bring it up.
No, let's stay with this. Let's stay with this version
of rabbit hole.
Making.
Exactly. But do you know what I mean? The English love a well-curated presentation, and I'm generalizing, of course, and they love people that don't rock boats. My generalization. What's your personal opinion before we get into dissecting the realities of this or the non-reality?
Personal opinion is the same as the professional opinion.
One day I'll merge the two in my life. Until then, the split personality rules.
Yeah. But even when you're saying there about him falling into line because he's come from, obviously this family that's well curated, is also, imagine being a young child. We all in this work, people watching out there'll be many people that have done the self-work of going back to your childhood and seeing what your traumas are, even though they're not massive traumas in theory, if it might be, it's not sexual abuse that's happened or whatever, but we've still got experiences that have happened in childhood that we are watching. So as a young child being brought up in this perfect environment and needing to conform in a certain way is just a way of being until we start to be affected by it, and then we get older and we start to unpack it. So it's kind of like that's what's happening for him in a way, is the same way as a lot of us are doing the childhood trauma, the childhood experience work that's formed us now. So it's very, in a way, I'm going to generalize again, it is quite British to go, you've got all this money, you're using your parents' name, you're ungrateful, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and it's the same with Prince Harry, all the rest of it. You're using the name, you've got the brand, and it's completely disregarding the fact that at some point there was a small child that, like all of us, was affected by our childhood experiences, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that we don't acknowledge in general as much as looking at someone and looking at them as privileged and just being a brat.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I get it. I get what everyone's saying, but that's what and I've just do opinion because I'll sway into that. My crate brain isn't very on these days. But I do think that he's being vilified for maybe this was the only way he felt he could have this outlet. I wonder. Because they're a strong unit, and I get what it's like to be in strong families. You're either in the family or you're not, and if you are questioning the status quo or referencing a different experience of your family experience, maybe one that isn't so positive, or then you're seen as a troublemaker.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So perhaps the platform in which he used to share his experience, maybe it's a bit immature, it's a bit teenage, but I wonder, why do you think he chose that?
Well, in my I guess in my perspective, given what I read, is I read a lot of it on Instagram. So what I'm seeing on Instagram is there's many people that are taking the Beckham side. And so my guess would be that, given that, I would go on his page quite a lot previous to this, and any time there was a picture posted, there would be comment after comment going, talk to your mum, talk to your dad, blah, blah, blah. So you imagine you're getting that through. You're not
Yeah.
being seen or heard for your own,
Yeah.
your own troubles, your own suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So where
Mm-hmm.
else are you going to post it? On the very place where there's your platform to do it. And that's where people are writing on your personal page all these comments about, so he's like not being seen or heard. So in order, which may have backfired on him, but in order for him to finally hope that he's seen or heard, is to put that up there. And I guess where it's, even though it seems like it is still swaying towards more his parents that are, in the right, there is still lots of people I'm reading going, sort of backing him now that they're hearing his side of the story, whereas before he
Yeah.
had no side. It only
Yeah.
seemed like he was just being an ungrateful brat. And even though he's maybe not done him that well, because people are now telling him to shut up even more, there are comments there saying, having empathy for him, let's say. So I get why he's done it. I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I wonder if putting it on social media was the only way he felt like he could have some power, because their presentation as a family, their brand is important to them. And I mean, it's true. Their brand has been important to them from day one. She has curated that. She has, it's been a whole thing, you know?
And it's the brand of them, both of them, would have started in their childhoods way before the brand. And then you kind of, because when you go back, and I don't know how many people would have watched the documentaries of them both, let's say, but the most recent one is the Victoria Beckham one. And she talks about how she felt different, how she was ugly at school, how she got bullied, how she had acne, all of this stuff. So from a young age, she's been trying to prove herself. And she's, we saw it on the documentary for those that watched it, her breaking down and David Beckham saying, I think you're still trying to prove something to yourself. It's not to me, it's not to anyone, it's to yourself. And for me, that's based on what you suffered, back then in your childhood. So the brand thing started way back when, before they even met. And they're just two people that came together, who have a strong importance for that, that self-image part. So.
Yeah, wow. Wow. And I mean, just to mind read, because we're all mind readers now.
Yeah.
What would I wonder what her experience of that statement would have been, of reading, the feeling humiliated, his mother hijacked his wedding, and that's strong language. He
Yeah.
didn't hold back.
Yeah, I can only imagine that it would have been heartbreaking to see that. All I see, if we're going really, top level with this, is a family of human beings suffering equally. And this is what happens, with us in humanity. We suffer and we can't reconcile, and we're suffering. And that's the point of it, is, this whole thing is like there's an equal suffering happening, but the reconciliation is based on stories. You did this, and it's just the story that gets in the way of the differences that we're having. But if we got through past the differences, we got past the story and got to the heart of it, it's human suffering. And that's the sad part about it. It's happening
Absolutely.
everywhere in the world. Yeah, yeah.
For me, I find that suffering is prolonged when there is a lack of accepting that other people have different perspectives to you.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's definitely like, I can completely, absolutely clucking disagree with you, but I don't no longer hold on to the hate and the resentment because you won't see it
Exactly.
my way. I'll
Exactly.
just go, well, I can actually see that's your perspective. I disagree with you vehemently, but I can separate that disagreement from the personality, because I have to. Because
Well,
if I
from the love,
don't,
right?
yeah,
From the
I
love.
have,
But that's the thing.
exactly.
We take it personally, don't we? The disagreement is part of our identity. We're identifying ourselves with everything that you've
Mm-hmm.
said about me. It's personal. And that's where it breaks down.
Mm,
We miss the love part. You can't love me if
mm,
you've said this about me. And it's like,
mm,
it's the personalization of some of the words that come out in the angry moments that doesn't mean that they don't love each other. They're just
mm.
having an experience of something because they're taking it personally. It can never be forgiven, for example. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen with them, but it happens with a lot of families. They'll go through, their lives not speaking to each other because of something you said 50 years ago.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And the fact is, no one is going to acknowledge or accept your reality of events. When I say accepting, I mean accepting perspective. That is your perspective. Accepting someone's perspective doesn't mean you acknowledge the series of events or the actual what their vision is. And I think that's a lot of where people get mixed up with this conflict, with this family stuff. It's like, I don't need you to disagree with me, agree with me, nothing. What I need you to do is hear me and understand that that's my experience. I don't need you to see, feel, or experience my experience. I just need you to know it happened for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Very
Totally.
complex thing I experienced in my own family, and witnessing it with other family feuds, that people go, well, I'm just not going to accept their perspective. Well, you have to expect that they have a perspective.
Well, they don't have to do anything, and they don't. And this is why the world is in the state that it's in. And that's why we end up in world wars for exactly this reason. And I think, regardless of our perspectives that we hold on to so tightly to, what's more important is exactly what you said there. It's the fact that we don't feel heard by the other person. The perspective actually means fuck all. The perspective is actually just something we're holding on to as part of our identity. But if we really dig into it, when I'm coaching people, it's like, okay, if you can put the perspective aside, what is actually going on for you in this dynamic? And they will usually very commonly get to, I don't feel heard. I
Yeah.
don't feel that they are hearing me. And then, we go deep into this stuff, right? Where have you not been heard before in your life? And it goes back to the parents or whatever anyway, which is what's happening here anyway. But this
Hmm.
is it. It's the program of not being heard that is running. So when two people are having an argument, say in a relationship, they're arguing over a perspective or whatever, but they're not really arguing over a perspective. They're arguing over their childhood experiences and traumas of not being heard. And now they're not feeling heard by each other. And the ultimate in this, we're not necessarily going to go there, is if we're not being heard by the other person, are we able to really hear ourselves and understand ourselves? Because that's where this can dissipate. It only takes one party to realise that it's their own stuff happening there for them to be okay that that person isn't hearing their perspective. They
Yeah.
can be okay with the fact that they're not being heard because they've now resolved within them their own stuff. They can hear and
Yeah.
understand themselves. It actually doesn't matter whether the other person can or can't.
Mm.
We start to have
Yeah.
compassion for the other person that isn't able to do
Yeah.
the inner work enough to
Yeah.
understand that it's only really us that's not feeling, heard by ourselves in the face of them.
Yeah. I have compassion for a lot of stupidity. just joking. I know that's a judgment. All right, all right, all right. Um, but
But yeah.
I mean, it's not stupidity, but you just have to have compassion for where someone can meet you. Um, I think I wonder though if Brooklyn got to this point after continually trying to share that he was feeling something,
Who
right?
knows? Yeah, I mean, we can kind of, yeah,
You know, because I
who
wonder
knows?
what
Yeah.
pushes you to that point of putting it like on such a large platform. What, knowing the ramifications, like what is it? What's interesting is that his wife, Nicola Peltz, it reminds me of Posh.
There it is. Shadow, shadow.
Do you know what I mean? She even looks like her. Have you seen pictures of her?
Yeah, of course, loads.
Like
I
she
just love watching them together in their shots. Yeah.
exactly. But do you know that? Let me just tell you something that is not evolved but salacious. She's actually she's actually suing. I just couldn't deal with this because obviously she's a billionaire. Good for her. Wonderful. I can imagine that there are some perspectives she will never understand because they're experiential. Yeah. So she's suing. She's suing her dog groomers for killing her animals. Have you heard this?
No, 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 no. No, I
Okay.
haven't.
Okay. This is totally off topic. I'm so sorry. But
Well,
I
we
just,
can hope that it's true, right? I don't know. We can hope that it's true.
yeah, look, apparently, according to ChatGPT, it is, but we know ChatGPT is a liar of all sorts. It told me Candace Owens was dead the other day. Yeah, it tells me random things. But yeah, so her dog groomers came over, groomed her dogs, and then she had a chihuahua. I don't know, an hour later, the dog died of a heart attack. Chihuahuas die of heart attack. It's a known thing. But yeah, so she's in the courts for that at the moment and saying that they're neglectful, blah, blah, blah. So I wonder what that dynamic is like. I mean, they're both grown up wealthy. They can just sue anyone if they don't like what's going on. I
I
just
get, I
wonder.
do get all that as well, but I think that, us poor people judge the rich as if they shouldn't be, suffering in ways that we do, and because they've got money, they can do things that I don't like to take away from the fact that when you get to the bones of our suffering, it's very similar regardless of the wealth and all the rest of it. I get the story that sits
Absolutely.
on it, but it's like,
But some people suffering, like, okay, you can have like, imagine this happened to me and this was my dogs, and I was like having a beef with the dog groomers. I
we
might
don't
be
know
like,
this is
hey,
true, Kat. We don't know this is true, though, do we? So we can
we
sit here
don't
and talk
know, we're
about this.
hypotheticalizing. But if you're very wealthy, your struggle could destroy people's livelihoods. There's
Yeah,
a
but so
level
could
of
a
impact.
poor person's do it
Yeah,
mentally
definitely,
with someone.
definitely,
Yeah, I
definitely,
think this is,
definitely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
definitely. But
yeah.
I mean, look, I get it. It can still destroy a business. You can still, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I do think the magnitude of the being like, I don't know. I mean, I don't judge rich people. I love you all. Good for you.
I think if people spend enough time with people with lots of money and you get to the shit of it, like I like to, I always want to see the humanness in people, right? So whenever I meet people, whether they've got fuck all money or they've got loads, I'm hearing the same suffering. I'm
yeah,
literally hearing the same suffering as,
yeah,
the people that, in Bali with no money, I'm hearing, the billionaires, the millionaires that I know. We're all looking at each other like we're different. We're all looking at each
yeah,
other like the other one's happier than the other. The suffering is the same. The suffering of not feeling worthy, not being heard, not being lovable, blah, blah, whatever it is. Same shit.
yeah,
Different stories on the surface.
yeah,
Same
yeah.
core stuff. And I think the more that we can
Absolutely.
kind of know that, the less separation there will be in the world. But there's so much separation because of our differences. We're not getting, who
Right.
knows? Yeah, I mean, we can kind of, yeah,
Because I
who
wonder
knows?
what
Yeah.
pushes you to that point of putting it like on such a large platform. What, knowing the ramifications, like what is it? what's interesting is that his wife, Nicola Peltz, it reminds me of Posh.
There it is. Shadow, shadow.
Do you know what I mean? She even looks like her. Have you seen pictures of her?
Yeah, of course, loads.
Like,
I
she
just love watching them together in their shots. Yeah.
exactly. But do you know that? Let me just tell you something that is not evolved but salacious. She's actually she's actually suing. I just couldn't deal with this because obviously she's a billionaire. Good for her. Wonderful. I can imagine that there are some perspectives she will never understand because they're experiential. Yeah. So she's suing. She's suing her dog groomers for killing her animals. Have you heard this?
No, 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 no. No, I
Okay.
haven't.
Okay, this is totally off topic. I'm so sorry. But
Well,
I
we
just
can hope that it's true, right? I don't know. We can hope that it's true.
yeah, look, apparently, according to ChatGPT, it is, but we know ChatGPT is a liar of all sorts. It told me Candace Owens was dead the other day. Yeah, it tells me random things. But yeah, so her dog groomers came over, groomed her dogs, and then she had a Chihuahua. I don't know. An hour later, the dog died of a heart attack. Chihuahuas die of heart attack. It's a known thing. But yeah, so she's in the courts for that at the moment and saying that they're neglectful, blah, blah, blah. So I wonder what that dynamic is like. I mean, they're both grown up wealthy. They can just sue anyone if they don't like what's going on. I
I
just
get, I
wonder.
do get all that as well, but I think that, us poor people judge the rich as if they shouldn't be, suffering in ways that we do, and because they've got money, they can do things that I don't like to take away from the fact that when you get to the bones of our suffering, it's very similar regardless of the wealth and all the rest of it. I get the story that sits
Absolutely.
on it, but it's like,
But some people suffering, like, okay, you can have like, imagine this happened to me and this was my dogs, and I was like having a beef with the dog groomers. I
we
might
don't
be
know
like,
this is
hey,
true, Kat. We don't know this is true, though, do we? So we
we
can sit here and
don't
talk
know, we're
about this.
hypotheticalizing. But if you're very wealthy, your struggle could destroy people's livelihoods. There's
Yeah,
a
but so
level
could
of
a
impact.
poor person's do it
Yeah,
mentally
definitely,
with someone.
definitely,
Yeah, I
definitely,
think this is,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. But
yeah.
I mean, look, I get it. It can still destroy a business. You can still, yeah, I get what you're saying, but I do think the magnitude of the being like, I don't know. I mean, I don't judge rich people. I love you all. Good for you.
I think if people spend enough time with people with lots of money and you get to the shit of it, like I like to, I always want to see the humanness in people, right? So whenever I meet people, whether they've got fuck all money or they've got loads, I'm hearing the same suffering. I'm
yeah,
literally hearing the same suffering as,
yeah,
the people that, in Bali with no money, I'm hearing, the billionaires, the millionaires that I know. We're all looking at each other like we're different. We're all looking at each
yeah,
other like the other one's happier than the other. The suffering is the same. The suffering of not feeling worthy, not being heard, not being lovable, blah, blah, whatever it is. Same shit.
yeah,
Different stories on the surface.
yeah,
Same
yeah.
core stuff. And I think the more that we can
Absolutely.
kind of know that, the less separation there will be in the world. But there's so much separation because of our differences. We're not getting down to what the kind of, the real suffering is, the same shit, regardless of how much money you've got or not.
So, question, because have I've spent time with people with money, no money, lots of money, power. Is the power struggle like the power struggle? I guess is the same. You're going to say, Candace, it's the same fucking power struggle. I hear you. I hear you. But is the magnitude of the power struggle a little bit different?
But what's the power? What's the power struggle? What are we talking here?
I think money. Um, look, I don't think money's a bad thing. I think money's a great thing and it has a lot of beautiful energy around it. I don't want to be, I'm not that person that is like, oh, rich people, you suck or whatever. I don't believe in that. But there's a control element. I think we had this conversation the other day about money, people with money, or, you know, using that money to be controlling.
If
So,
if the if the people on the other side are able to be controlled by money, then yes. But it takes two parties. It's not just one. And I know this isn't going to go down well with people, but it still takes, when we use the word manipulation and we use gaslighting and all the rest of it, it still takes two people. Two people playing out some trauma stuff to one need power and the other one to need to be powered over.
yeah. But as a
You know,
child born into that family, he doesn't know, like, he doesn't understand, he might not understand that the money and the brand is the power, and he's just born into it. How is he still participating? And is this him not participating?
well, yeah, potentially it's him not, right? And everyone else is, because he's the one that's on the outer. So,
Do you know what I mean? Like, I like, if you're
mm.
born into that family and then it's all about money and da 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 da,
But
it's
is it all
it's
about money? This is where we go to. Money again is on the surface of what does money represent. If it represents that if I have money, I'm more significant. If it makes me more seen in the world because I have money. Money is on the surface. What's driving the intention of being rich, being famous, that's the stuff to look at. The money's just
mm-hmm.
we've focused so much on the money and the power stuff. It's going beneath that again. What's driving the need for that? Yeah. I'm a worthy human being if I have all this money. And now it looks like I'm just power hungry, but I'm actually screaming to be seen.
Screaming to be seen. That's interesting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting, interesting. And so, given that he has disconnected from his family and is on the outs, this is a huge impact because he's pretty much lost an entire family. But I can imagine that's a big thing to go up against or to share or to, you know, that's all of them. So I wonder, like, this took a bit of courage. So I wonder if he's having a bit of an awakening, like you said earlier. And do you think this situation will resolve itself? Do you think both sides can have a bit of an awakening in these situations? I
I
know
mean,
people
who
that don't
knows,
talk
right?
for 30 years. So, I
Yeah, me too.
just, like,
Yeah, me too. I don't
you
know.
know,
It could go on. It might not. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. Who knows? Yeah, absolutely no
what would
idea.
you
Yeah.
say if someone's in a similar situation with family, with feeling not seen, not heard? How would you tell them to approach it?
So I would never go with the approach. I would go with resolving the inner stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the approach takes care of itself once we're resolved within ourselves. So yeah, so what we're looking at, if people are having these family feuds, for example, a very common family feud, let's say, will be around money. Let's say, in theory, someone might have died and there's a will, and we're all falling out over the money and all the rest of it. And a lot of these cases, same with divorces, right? A lot of these cases, looking at them and just going, this ain't about the money. So what I would
Mm.
do if that was the situation is, yeah, what's this really about for you? Yeah, so that's the
Mm.
question that always gets asked in coaching. What is this really about? You've told me a big story about whatever it is. What's this really about? And again, this comes down to, I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard, I don't feel loved, I don't feel safe, I don't feel worthy. And this situation is bringing all that up. But we miss that, so we're going to just argue about the money, on the rightness, on the fairness, the righteousness, the fairness of this.
Okay.
What you've done, what you haven't done. Yeah, all of that stuff. So that's all the stuff to really work on. And whatever eventuates from that,
So, say someone sits down with you, they do the work around the money and they resolve it within themselves. They think and they go, okay, I get it. This is not feeling seen, heard, valued in my family. And then they go back and spend time with their family, and they are then re-triggered, does that mean they didn't have any resolve in the first place? How can they approach that triggering moment? Is there an anchor? Is there a tool? Give me something for battle lines.
Practice, right? It's like anything. And if someone comes to a coaching session, they're going to go and have this conversation. I say to them, you getting this like right 100% and not getting triggered and being calm in this situation, expressing how you're feeling and what's really going on for you isn't necessarily going to go, and probably isn't going to go 100% perfect the first time. Keeping up the communication is, the practice of it until that becomes the new embodied way of being. Otherwise, our embodied way of being is usually the trigger, the reactiveness, the defensiveness, the rest of it. So in order for us to change all of these years of practice of that, we've got to practice our way in each situation. And then you go into one situation and you start explaining, this is actually what's really going on for me. I didn't feel heard in childhood or whatever that is. And it may not be your family, right? You may be talking to a stranger in theory about
Yeah.
the fact that you've got triggered by them because it's actually your childhood stuff. And the beauty of this is when this has been done before, when you can actually get the people together and do this as a couples counselling in a work environment, in a family environment, when you can actually do it together, the beauty of it is everyone's got the same language set already. So you're already coming in, having owned your stuff. And then you come to the conversations together now with this new language set of owning your own stuff. And it's practice.
Wow. Yeah,
Practice
that
all the
would be
time.
interesting, I guess, like hearing the people using the same languaging, obviously because they're in such close proximity as well, and coaching that. So have you ever coached families? I
I've
never
coached,
coached families. I didn't even coach couples. I just coached single people. So I find that interesting.
I've coached two, so a couple of members of a family, say a mother and daughter, a father and son. I've coached two, just like same as relationship stuff, same as going into an office, into a corporate and working with, it's the same stuff. There's no difference in what we're doing. In all of this, it's reclaiming what's going on for us,
Yeah.
and then working from there.
Relationshiping.
So, yeah,
Relationshiping.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
were actually like all of this relates back to the communication model, right? So I think you mentioned that earlier. I'm going to put this up in the screen somewhere. But the NLP communication model is all about what's happening on the outside, how are you processing it with your deletions and distortions, which is all that's going on here. So outside, deletions, distortions here, and then output, which is emotional state. And I guess NLP is clearing out and clarifying emotional state, as in like what's true for you and what was a deletion and distortion. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I think
Right?
I thought this was really relevant to, for people to see if that's what they want to see, because I know how powerful this model is whenever I, present this in workshops. So NLP, for those that don't know, neuro-linguistic programming, and in essence, it's all around how we don't see reality as it is. We see reality as we are through the programs, the lenses, the filters of our mind, which has been formed in the first 7 years of our lives. So we are walking around viewing scenarios, especially those that really trigger us, not as they are, but as, as we were as children growing up. So through those
Yeah.
lenses. So this is what I mean. So as we're watching this play out with Brooklyn and the family, so many different opinions, people taking sides, everything, all of this stuff, and there's no truth in any of it in theory. It's just, comment after comment, reading who's saying what. And as I read all of this stuff, I'm not reading the comments as they are. I'm reading, I wonder what happened in their childhood for them to take that view or that side on this. I wonder,
Yeah.
when it's really triggered, when people are getting really, triggered about this stuff, it's their experience that they're triggered by. And this
Yeah.
is just the mirror of it, this situation. So
Yeah.
that model, as we can see it here, really shows the external event. And there's the picture there that you can see, the picture as reality is, so external event as the reality looks. And then on the other side of it, it shows our version of reality. And you can see the difference. There's a difference in those two pictures
Yeah.
at either side, which is, yeah, with the distortions that we place on it based on, in the model, you can see all the filters that we
Yeah.
run in our mind before, you know, we react. And it's so quick, like we're literally viewing
Yeah.
something and we're having a reaction, an opinion on it, and all of those things in the middle of that model, our values, our beliefs, all of our programs, whether we're worst case scenario thinkers, best case scenario thinkers, whether we're, you know, uber judgmental, whether we're judging ourselves, whether we're judging others, whether we're people pleasers, whether we're the opposite of that and we're disagreeable. All of our programs, our individual set of programs, are how we view and have an opinion on situations like the Beckhams
Yeah.
or any other situations in
And
our lives.
and just to clarify, like deletions and distortions for everyone, deletions and distortions are like, for example, you have a primary school teacher when you were little, when you were like 7 or 8, and they always yelled a lot, and they had a big nose, or they were a certain culture. That's a deletion and distortion that can happen to you. That's a filter that you might subconsciously always find yourself internally consciously meeting people like that and not having an ability to be like, oh, I don't connect with them, or I don't really like them, or they're a bit aggressive, or you're making the story but the story isn't true. It's something from your childhood that was just an interpretation of that moment, which was what you were experiencing then at face value.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
deletions
And
and
also,
distortions.
yeah, and also what we do is, as we're watching a scenario play out, because we are watching it through our filters, we're not watching it just as it is, just as it's playing out. We're only taking in a certain amount of information on it. And then 5 minutes later, we then go and repeat the story to someone else. By that point, we've already jumbled it up. So we're deleting parts. We haven't been able to take in the full spectrum of what's going on, because there's all these billions of bits of sensory information coming at us. And we can only take like a few, a handful, like 5 or something in at one time. So we're leaving a situation and we're now going away and we're describing that situation. And you might even be talking to a person that was also witnessing that situation, but you're having 2 completely different versions of it based on what you've taken away and what you've deleted and distorted, because you can only take in and hold in mind a tiny percentage of everything that's available to us. So that's
Yeah.
why you'll be sitting with someone, you're like, what do you mean? Did you not see what they said? Did you not hear? And the other person goes, they didn't say that. They said this. And it's like, we sit there and we'll argue with someone about something. And when you know this stuff, you just kind of go, there's nothing to argue about, because what they've seen is what they've seen, what I've seen, what I've seen. There's nothing to say that didn't happen. There's nothing to say, well,
Yeah.
I'm just taking in what I'm capable of taking in, and they're taking in what they are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of our filters as well getting in the way. So it's, yeah, a
Yeah.
whole lot of mess.
That is so true. And so we mentioned like up to the age of 7. Why is that 0 to 7 so pivotal? Like, tell me more about that.
Well, in theory, we're coming into this world as a blank canvas, in theory. Okay, we won't go into all the other schools of thoughts on this, but let's just say we're pretty blank at this point. And just like we've got our new phone is clear and it's empty. Yeah. And what we start to do with our new phone is we start to add the apps and we start to program it with all the things that it needs in order for it to function to the way that we want it to function. It's the same as us. We're coming into the world app free, program free. We're coming in like our new phone with nothing on it. And in the first 7 years of our lives is those really key, if you think how long we're programming something for, 7 years is a pretty, stable number of years to be fully programmed by around 7 years old, because we've been on repetition of all of the stuff that we've been learning from just a few months old. So there'll be a tiny period where apparently we stay pretty clear for maybe a few weeks, a few months, and then we're into program. So your parents are saying to you, you must say please, say please, say please, say please, say please. Programming. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Programming. We know how to count. In the same way as we're learning how to count and we're learning how to say please and thank yous, we're also learning to be worthy from saying thank you, or to be rude or bad by not saying thank you. Programming. This is how we're programmed. So we're clean and we're at our most vulnerable, sensitive in those
Yeah.
first 7 years. And then we're pretty much fully there. Yeah.
So I wonder if Brooklyn Beckham is trying to look, he's demonstrating some of his programming, and yet he's also trying to break out of his programming in the same breath, I would say. Because he's demonstrating, well, I think a little bit of entitlement and whatnot, but then at the same breath, he's trying to break out of it by not caring about public image. And
But
so,
what's entitlement as well? That's just our judgment, right? That's
yeah,
we're
exactly.
calling it entitlement. Is his intention to be entitled, or is he,
I
is
guess
he expressing how he feels?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess like if everyone's observing, well, your parents, what they've done for you and blah blah blah, and the deletions and distortions, like maybe he is deleting some of the good things they've given him, and who knows. But
And I think this is where we go to. It's no one. It's like I said earlier. It's like we don't get away. Like when we're born into this world, however good, however rich, however loving our parents are, we don't get away from being programmed with the negative and the positive. Doesn't matter how good it's been, doesn't matter how much money. And the poor people are going to look at that and go, he's entitled, he's had everything, as if everything is money. Money equals
mm,
happiness. You've got a nice home, you've got all of this, and it's not okay. We shouldn't feel not okay because we've had all this. It doesn't take away from what experiences might he have had at school. How do we know if he got bullied or he didn't? All of that stuff, all of these things that could be feeding into it. So I think it's important with this is, and this isn't to say that I'm taking anyone's side in this. And what will normally happen is when there's an underdog, I will step into that part and go, this is, I see them all as suffering. But when there's someone that's suffering more than the other because they're not getting the backing, it's to kind of go, how do we see this more equally rather
yeah,
than it being one and one?
yeah,
Yeah. And I
yeah.
think that, with this whole communications model, the NLP model as well, I particularly brought this in as well because I thought it was quite funny to bring this part in with something like the dance. So,
Yes,
she's apparently
dance.
inappropriately danced at his wedding, or she did the first dance. And this is it again. Whether we've seen the video or we haven't, I don't know whether I've not seen anything that
And
there's
the
been any
memes are
footage.
so funny.
It's that thing of, whoever's watching that dance in that room at that time will still come away with a different perspective of whether that dance was inappropriate or wasn't. There's no right or wrong within it. As the minute we're judging it, because we've seen it, we're judging it again through our programs. That was inappropriate. And someone goes, well, no, that wasn't inappropriate. Rather than just looking at it and go, that was a dance and she thrust her hips, just the facts in theory. We don't do just the facts. We're running it through this communications model of all of the meaning making. So even if we saw the video, it wouldn't prove whether it was inappropriate or not. It would still be our.
Yes. So my thing is that our purpose to all reach Buddha state? Because every time like I'm coming up, yeah, as I was saying, when I get on these calls, I love to let all my programs, my deletions, my distortions hang out, because I know that this is the reactions and thoughts that whoever's watching is going to have. I know when I go into coaching mode, as you know, you can really tune in, but I love it. I love, and because I'm learning, but the more I sit in this space with you, with all my deletions, distortions, stories, narratives hanging out, the more I realize that the only way to peace is to get to the Buddha state, is to be the observer, is to be the ever, peaceful, just moving through life, right?
Well, yeah, and is it our purpose? I think our purpose is whatever we tell ourselves it is, but ultimately, I don't know. As someone made a divine plan that is for us to come into this world to then realize that we're not any of this and that we are just the silence that sits behind all of the noise. I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess there's enough people now meditating and doing this work to suggest that that's possibly what people think they're moving to or hope they're moving to without knowing it. I don't know. It's
Mm,
who knows.
interesting. One moment, I need to close that door because someone's deciding to cut the grass. Right. Namaste. Namaste, bitches. Okay. So
I think something that's quite important in this, that you know, as I go through this work and I do this, is we go through stages with this. So there'll be parts where, you know, when we're doing this work, there can be this whole stage. This could be Brooklyn, I don't know, but this whole stage of going, right, I need to set my boundaries. I need to be clear and speak my truth because my voice has been suppressed for all these years. Not saying that that's his truth, but this is something that can happen. And we go through this stage where we're now setting boundaries, we're expressing ourselves. I'm not putting up with any more shit anymore. And then it can kind of be this fight thing that goes on. If we carry on doing the work and we carry on to this long enough, then we can maybe take ourselves away from the situation, be a bit angry, be a bit resentful. And if we're doing the work, get to a place of more peace within that. And then there's the potentially to come together. You know, if we're all in this, if we're all willing to do this, but to then come together. And it may be a reconciliation. It doesn't always have to be. But the key part of this work is when we have that time and space and we're angry and resentful and all of that, that can start to dissipate. If we keep working on ourselves, we can end up finding that peace, because that's all we're looking for is the peace within ourselves. It's not actually the peace with them. So we can end up getting to that place of peacefulness. And once we found it within ourselves, we can find that compassion for them. And it doesn't mean that we need to be in touch with them or we ever need to speak to them again. It was never about them anyway. So this works, you know, whenever I'm working with people in my own experience as well, it's like either we come together and, you know, we carry on our friendships or whatever it is, or we don't. And that hasn't been my experience to date because we've always come back together, you know. But for some people, it's like, no, they're not good energy, whatever it is, you know, whatever that wording we want to use, and that, you know, they're not for me. And I love them, but, you know, we're just not going to be in each other's lives anymore. But we found the peace that we wanted in the first place within ourselves enough to not be harbouring any of that stuff anymore that is making us sick in theory. So it doesn't need to be some big reunion and getting back together and all of this for us to still be able to be okay without having them in our lives.
And I think you say this all the time, actually. I mean, I notice you don't have a lot of duality, right? The duality, I feel like, it is a lot of struggle there, like this or this, that or that, or this. Do you know what I mean? That I tend to still have a lot of duality because I do a lot of comparison. So really understanding absorption and exception and letting go of duality, that's where the peace is, would you say?
Definitely. And it's not that I don't not have it, but I have the tools to keep reminding myself. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist energetically and in my mind in, you know, in moments of stuff. I definitely go into duality. To me is the separation between, you know, when I'm in my head and I'm now separated from body, from, you know, from oneness, from the outside, you know, from presence. So it's not that it doesn't exist, because it does exist internally, but there's just the tools. As I talk, you know, as I'm talking this through, it's just that reminder to myself of that. So it's kind of, as I always say, it's the fake it till you make it, right? The more that I keep it on repetition within myself, as I feel it, you know, emerging in my body, or I watch it in my mind as I'm, you know, dueling, is that reminder again each time of the practice of bringing it back to what do I know? The embodiment isn't 100% there by any means, but that the knowledge is there enough to keep the practice up in hope that the full embodiment will be there, you know, at some point.
And I guess, like, I mean, the Buddha, oneness, right? I am not Buddhist in any way, but just taking from some teachings, the moving to oneness is what so many teachers and guides and so forth through the ages talk about. The letting go of the duality, the letting go of black or white, the letting go of judgment, the coming into oneness. Again, oneness and acceptance isn't agreement of perspective. It is just the ability to see it.
Yeah.
And that's when I became free. When I realized, I mean, because I was triggered by lots, but I don't give a shit if you don't see my perspective. I can see yours, not agree, and still love you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
And then
so
you get to the point where it's not that you don't agree or you agree, it just is, right?
yeah, yeah,
It
it
just
just
is.
is,
That's yeah.
you
That's
know.
yours. Yeah. I hear you on that, and I don't need to agree or
Mm,
not agree. I can hear
yeah,
you. It's literally
yeah,
like I'm hearing some words coming out of your mouth, and I hear that.
yeah.
The
And
minute we're agreeing or disagreeing, we're now in some sort of. It's just yeah. I hear you.
it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
The Beckhams, I think, as a family unit, they represent so many family units, as you said, money or no money. And I wonder, I hope, I mean, it doesn't really matter, but the letting go of needing to be right, um, and coming back into love is the ultimate peace for yourself. I always say to myself, like when things come up or people are triggering me, like, I'm not drinking that poison. I just won't do it. I don't want to drink the poison. Yeah, what you say I don't agree with, but I'm not drinking that poison. I will not hold on to it because I just don't want to. I don't want to suffer. You know, and people can look at us like backing down or letting people walk all over you. I don't think so. It's peace because I'm not here suffering. So I
Exactly.
wonder,
Yeah.
if
I
you're
know.
in
I
this
hear you on that.
situation with your family, ask yourself, how's the poison? How's it taste? Is it good?
Yeah.
You know,
How are you
like,
poisoning yourself, right? Because that's all it
yeah,
is.
yeah. How are you
Mm.
poisoning yourself?
Yeah.
Like, you can stop at
Yeah.
any time. You can just
Yeah.
go, okay, cool. I still love you. You know, stop at
Yeah.
any time.
And I think this is the key to this. Some people may be watching this and going, "Well, it's really easy to say, oh, I've got no idea what you're actually talking about because this person has really offended me. They've done something really bad." And so it's not to be discompassionate to people, that are suffering that. And it does take a fuckload of work to see this. This isn't without judgment. It's literally
Mm,
like in order to be able to reach these kind of levels of perspective. I mean, I've been in this over 20 years, I've 10 years of therapy, 10 years of it, it's and even before that I was in full on inquiry as a teenager and so this isn't easy stuff to get to. It
no.
takes work, it takes understanding, it takes practice. So for a lot of people, they will watch this sort of stuff and go, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
You've got to cut people off. You've got to argue. You've got to stick up for yourself, as you
Yeah.
said. You can't back down to that because we're not taught that, not backing down is not having a full-on war with someone. It's
Mm,
being able to walk away if that's what you're going to do or resolve it, but, with a loving, with genuine love for that, for that person in their stuff as we release
yeah.
ourselves from ours.
Mm,
Um,
mm. And I mean,
so,
I guess it's how you want to move through the earth as well. Yoga has allowed me to embody a lot more practices. I mean, NLP has been there for like over 15 years, but the embodiment, the physical embodiment came with breath and being able to understand how it was affecting my body. I realized that being angry and resentful, even though I was still with people hanging out, but I was just like, I was literally poisoning myself. So that's when I say poison. Choosing not to do that is the kindest, most loving thing you can do for yourself. And then in turn becomes the most kindest, loving thing you can do for others, I
I
think.
hear you. Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah, any
Absolutely.
last words, Anita?
I think what just came up there as we spoke about that is when I look at the dynamics of my family over the time, over the years of where we're at now compared to 10 plus years ago. And the minute I let go of trying to, of judging them or trying to change
Mm,
them or wanting them to be different, that's kind of been so huge. to the point where we spend time, we spend so much time together now, and it's just nothing. Whereas we used to argue
Mm.
so much and get so offended and take things personally, and now it's just, I don't know, it's just easy. And that's not just because I've done the work. Everyone's, whatever's happened as we maybe get closer to the end of lives. Maybe there's a deeper appreciation for each other, but it's like, yeah, it's in letting that go, as you said, the need to be right, if it's that, or the judgments trying to change. And I think for me, a massive part of it was going, I was really into all of this work, and it was like, well, take it and make it your job where people want this.
Yeah.
If your family, your friends don't want it, stop trying to fucking change them. Just go and do the work on yourself. Let people pay you that want the change, and leave everyone else alone. And that's
Yeah.
that's what's happened, and that's been really key in this. So
Mm.
and I think for me, really big part of this as well is, I remember saying this to one of my clients and her bursting into tears once, of going, relationships don't need to end ugly. They may need to end, but they don't need to end
Yeah.
ugly. And this particular client just burst into tears because all she ever knew was ugly endings to relationships. She didn't know any other way. So it doesn't mean that we need to stay together. It doesn't mean that we need to speak to each other, but it doesn't need to be ugly. As you say, with the poison, we don't need to poison ourselves with the resentment and the hurt. And if something has ended not great and we're feeling that, it's like, go and do the work on yourself to ease that within yourself. It doesn't need to
Mm.
remain ugly within you, regardless of what's happened out there.
Mm. Well said. Well
Yeah.
said. Doesn't need to remain ugly within you, regardless of what happened out there. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks, my love. Just
Another,
quickly, I just
yeah,
want to say quickly, if anyone, obviously, as we say, if anyone wants to explore any of this stuff, feel free to reach out. Also, the model that we've shown on here is by the Coaching Room, who we absolutely love and
love
recommend
the
for
coaching.
NLP. So
Yeah,
that's
Anita and
their
I
model.
both spent the last 15 years immersing ourselves into the coaching room. So, yeah,
Reach out if
it's,
you want any information on them or us or anything. So
yeah,
thank you so
yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.